Are those the Candy Treats making a run back for a regional? Yes, it is. To the 30% of you that are not smashed the ever-living crap out of that subscribe button, smash it so you guys don't miss out on more OS content. Well, we have the breakdown for this regional here, and that is, well, 2 Sword Soul making a pretty strong finish here in the top cut, which I'm actually very happy to see that Sword Soul was able to grab this regional and shake things up, because from where we've been sitting here with a lot of this format, we've been seeing a lot of players, well, just kind of just look at Sword Soul and go, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, it's a nice sigh of fresh air to see, or a nice breath of fresh air, to actually see that change. And of course, we also had 2 Kashtira decks in Top Cut. Boo, the new best deck. It's ruining the game. Only had 2 in representation here. Wasn't anything too crazy in terms of turnover, so it's okay. It's not that bad. And we also had 1 branded in Top Cut, so I'm glad to see the Fallen of Albas has regained some sort of stance on the format here. We also had a Labyrinth list, which I would have liked to have seen the Labyrinth list, but unfortunately nothing was posted for it. We're just happy enough to be able to talk about everything that we did have here. We also had a Madolche Candy Treats deck. That was the main thing that caught my attention for this regional, was just the fact that Madolche got the chance to step on into the arena here and actually do something. And that is awesome. All right, you do not see a lot of, players out here, trying out these ideas. And then we also had a Draco Slayer. Where did that one come from? Draco Slayer in a Kashtira format is actually crazy, because the minute one of those pendulum scales gets locked, you pick up your cards and you walk away. But you know what? This player had the chance to make a top 8 finish. Let's pass on over to this deck list. All right, winning this regional was none other than Sword Soul, and I'm actually not too shocked to say that, because, this deck has kind of rounded itself out. Now, I mean, when you naturally have, 6 checks that you can basically play here to punish the opponent, I mean, from the Nibiru's to main decking, Book of Eclipses here, and I would even say, Imperms and Ashes also are going to help you, because when they drop the Unicorn and attempt to do something, or they have the Theosis, you can go ahead and, do these lines of play to basically stop them, plus board breakers. It's actually pretty solid out here. Now, this build was also just citing 1 Incredible Ecclesia, main decking 2, which is actually kind of cool. And then we have our Bysteel package down here if we really need it. It depends on what you think you're going to play against that you would bring it in for, but you have essentially a lot of different options here available to you for you to access to be able to bring up online. Seems pretty straightforward to me, so I'll take it. Next up here was our branded Shenanigans deck. Now, all real things considered, still seeing heavy Bysteel numbers in these decks genuinely shocks me, because we've seen a lot of these builds just go down to double Saronir, just so you can do, the Lubellion step throughs, so you can just look at your opponent and go, well, what can you do? Now, I don't know what these players are really afraid of, that they need to be extending out these Bysteel packages this much, but I guess the free advantage engines that you can get with these does come up, I guess, some matches, but it just feels very heavy to me. We're also playing triple Edge of Chain and triple copies of the Patchwork. This is kind of interesting to see this. Also seeing Dramaturge as well. Both of these are even the theater here is not something that you've been seeing play in very large numbers. They're very optional tech choices that can make or break certain matchups for sure, but it definitely is nowhere near the level that it really should be at the end of the day. So I am kind of liking where some of these ideas and things that players are trying are going, but it's really up in the air, I guess, at the end of the day. But like I said, the heavy Bysteel numbers is a little bit off-putting. Like I said, I get what they're trying to do. Also, Spooky Dogwood has had... This is actually kind of interesting, because we haven't seen a lot of play with Spooky Dogwood, as of late. I know it's still a very good card. A lot of players still are giving this like a shot for time, but this is kind of one of those cards that you kind of have to play in order just to make sure that you don't lose to something stupid. Yay, time rules. One of my favorite things, also the Anti-Nibiru card. Outside that, extra deck feels very, very straightforward. I'm glad to see Triple Albion finally getting a little bit of love out here as well. So yeah, that's your Despia list. Next up here is Cash Money the deck. We're only main deck in 2 Book of Eclipse. That's kind of interesting. I don't really have much of a thought on that. Triple Lava Golem, I feel like, has become a mandatory staple in this deck just to be able to play the game, because the minute that Shangri-La hits down, you're just going to sigh, and you're going to have to clean things up. Now, we're also main decking Triple Evenly Matched here. Actually kind of cool, because this gives you the chance to go second and actually try to board break out here. And it's kind of something else. I also think that we have Crossout Designator here. That's something that I haven't seen a lot of either out here, this format. It definitely, I actually kind of like this. Now, we also have Goliath here. I also like Goliath because you can, as long as you're not running into like a crap ton of Kashtira matchups, and you don't play the mirror, you pot a Prosperity this, and then you can go ahead and toggle it underneath your big guy, and you're effectively off to the races. Now your opponent's going to have to find a way to, try to out the big Kashtira Exceeding monster that now has a Goliath protecting it from being destroyed by card effects. It's a lot harder than you actually think, because the walking, talking macro machine is a big issue for a lot of players, and it's kind of a shame out here when this card becomes involved in the course of the format. So I guess good stuff overall for this list. Next up here is Madolche. So disclaimer here for everybody that is looking at Candy Treats and they're like, oh my god, Robbie, this deck is dead, just drop it. I have a very good friend that loves this deck. And the best advice and words I got from him was, now that the Ishizu package has been checked, and yeah, Kashtira is not an amazing matchup for this deck can now attempt to do something. And that's actually pretty important at the end of the day here, is if you are seeing players that are looking at like the generic metagame shifts giving these decks the chance to actually do something, that really says a lot about the format. So, I mean, yeah, losing your graveyard is something that like Madolche doesn't really want to do, but I mean, you still have like Mudora and Keldo here for shuffle back option. Obviously, like the Earth synergy that you get with these is going to be the reason why this deck can do something at the end of the day. But you also have, access to a very small Bysteel package as well. Like, this deck has done a really good job picking up the pieces that it had to endure last format and re-sculpt itself into something new. I also see there's the change of heart and the mind control. Yes, battle into an opponent's Exceed monster, jack their monster, and proceed to make your Zeus on top of whatever you just took. It's definitely the play of the game, I feel like, out here, but you're going to see that, because Kashtira, yeah, they can lock all of your zones for sure, but depending how they open, how they optimize, and really how a lot of those end boards are going to go, you're going to have a lot of things to really have to sculpt up and decide, well, is this going to be optimal or whatnot? And Madolche is going to be able to answer a lot of those things. Now, this build's not playing Abermax like some of the other previous builds that we've seen, but don't underestimate that, all right? A lot of diversity. Last we have here is Pendulums. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, you're in a format where if your pendulum zones get locked, well, this deck's going to cry. But that doesn't mean that this deck can't go first and make an attempt to set up some boards. Because remember, this did make top 8 out of its regional, and that's nothing to really, laugh at. Obviously, you get one zone, you can go ahead and Book of Eclipse. I figured they'd be playing a little bit more Nibiru instead of just the one, but we have 2 in the main, so I guess that's fine. I figured you'd want to maximize on this, but I guess if you set up an entire pendulum board, you don't really get much of a recovery after you do a big giant space rock. And then we are citing a 4-card Bysteel package as well. Nothing really too out of the ordinary here. A lot of the ratios in a lot of these pendulum variants definitely feel pretty much straightforward, in my honest opinion. So that is everything that we have for this regional breakdown. Is there anything here that really catches your attention, I guess, out of left field, please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.